Well, good morning, one and all. I want to make sure I can share the screen so I can see all of you, but I don't. There we go. Now I can see you. Wonderful, wonderful. Now I know who I'm welcoming. So good to see you. Thank you for being here. And as we so often have said when we are in the park, it is by divine appointment that we are all here together. There are no accidents. And I'm just so happy that you're in what I perceive as being in your right place. And I'm glad to be here with you. It's just wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and start out with the daily word, because one of the joys of being able to serve you is taking time to reflect and think upon the daily word that we offer. And it just goes a little deeper than it would go if I simply read it on my Facebook page or read it from the daily word. It just gives me time to really let it go a little bit deeper. And today's word is beautiful. It is grace. Through divine grace, I am abundantly blessed in every way. Grace is an awareness that wherever I am, God is. It is my reminder to let God be God in me. Grace assures me that I am never alone on my journey through life, that no matter what I do or fail to do, I am unconditionally loved and accepted at the level of spirit. Grace touches every area of my life. In a lonely moment, grace is the overwhelming awareness that I am loved. It is the surprising way through a challenge I considered unsolvable. It is my whole body suddenly glowing with the power of divine life, even as I experience a health challenge. These are just some of the many ways I experience grace. Grace need not be, nor can it be earned. It is a divine gift available at every moment. As I open my heart to divine grace, I am filled with indescribable peace. I could just reread that several times and just let it sink in more because it's so beautiful. And from Hebrews 13:25, grace be with all of you. And this morning, as I was thinking about that, I was trying to explain to someone what grace is. And what popped into my head was unmerited favor. But that seemed so theological, and it didn't seem down at the base level like I wanted it to be. And finally, what came to me is, now see, what did I say it was? Giving someone a little slack. And I just think that to me says it in today's language, is so many times it's an opportunity to give someone slack or give them grace on the freeway when they want to cut in front of us, or someone in the grocery store. So it kind of took it out of the theoretical range of explanation and brought it down to earth for me today, which was really helpful. So having said that, I want to go into our affirmations, because these are more important than I ever dreamed. I've been studying more this week on Dr. Katie's work through Marty, and learning even more about the importance of denial. And I've always kind of been a Mary Poppins, or somebody with a head in the clouds and everything all being positive, and not realizing that she talks about having denials first before we even go into the affirmation. So I thought that was a good reminder for me, and I trust all of you already know that, the importance of both denying what is not true and then accepting what is true. And as we can join together in saying our affirmations, what we know to be true is that there is only one power, one presence, one love active in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. Can you take a deep breath and say that with me again? There is only one presence, one power, one love active in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. And to believe that is just so wonderful. And that is true for each of you in your own lives. As you say with me, there is only one power, one presence, and one love active in your life, God, the good, omnipotent. And that love and that grace and that knowingness permeates all of us and also this ministry. And so we say together, there is only one presence, one power, one love active in this ministry, God, the good, omnipotent. And even as the same proclamation goes out to this world, there is only one presence, one power, and one love active in the world today, God, the good, omnipotent. And expanding even further, we know there is only one presence, one power, and one love active in the universe today, God, the good, omnipotent. And putting together all of this, plus that wonderful word of grace, I just am thinking about how many opportunities we have to receive God's grace every day, and how many opportunities we have to share that grace with others. And we can even share grace with people who see the political system different than we see. We can see it how they drive differently on the freeway. We can see how it's manifested in our families where we have differences. And we all have that power to extend that grace to everyone and behold the Christ in ourselves and in each other. So for all of that, I give thanks. Well, there's no more popular word to sing that goes along with the word grace than Amazing Grace. It's on page 16, if I read my word right, 16 in our song book. So Emin, can you bring that up for us? Beautiful words, regardless of which rendition it is, isn't it? That whoever wrote this realized he'd come through a lot of trials and tribulations, but the thing is, he went through it. And we all do too. No matter what comes our way, we know we have the grace of God guiding us each step of the way and taking us through any troubles we may have. So welcome again to all of your friends. Thank you for coming today and spending this time together with your consciousness, which adds so much to the group. And I don't know how this all happens electronically, but I choose to believe it does, that we're all here together in a beautiful way. And hope you can feel each other's love and presence. And if you need a hug, just put your right hand over your left shoulder and your right hand over your right shoulder and just give yourselves a big squeeze and know that you can feel that if that's what you need when we're in person as well. So I don't have any announcements other than to say Bill and I will be back again next Sunday. And the following Sunday will be the 4th, which will be our guest speaker from last month, Ruben, coming back. And on the 5th Sunday, we'll be having Jackie coming back. She's in a chaplaincy program, and she will be here on the 5th Sunday in October. But do you have any other announcements, Catherine? No, we're all good. So, okay, well, with that, then we can go into our meditation song, which is Grace on page 380. Now, this is not one of Sharon's recorded songs. So I'm just going to read it to you. And so I don't think Emin can, there's nothing for him to bring up, but it has to do with grace, and I'm kind of being saturated with that. It's take thy hand and be still for a moment. Father, bless this food, or it could be anything else we share. Let the Spirit flow in this moment. Fill our hearts with love and care. And another version can be substituting the word food with peace or joy or love. And I'll read it again. Take my hand and be still for a moment. Father, bless this joy we share. Let the Spirit flow in this moment. Fill our hearts with joy and care. I just thought that was so beautiful, so beautiful. So as we go into this moment of meditation, I invite you to get comfortable. I think it's important to not have stress in our bodies when we're opening up to Spirit. If you like putting both of your feet on the ground, if that's part of your practice, to be grounded, to relax your shoulders, and most importantly, to breathe. And as I mentioned, I've done a little more studying on Dr. Katie this week. And something I learned was the importance of the silence. Because we can rush to hear teachers, we can rush to hear podcasts, we can rush to chase those who have been such wonderful leaders. But it's in the silence that we can hear God's voice. When it becomes personal, it becomes ours. It is not adapting someone else's ideology or someone else's opinion, but direct from the source, we can be the channel to bring that forth. I'm so thankful for times of silence. We've often heard silence is golden. But here I am, almost 81 years old, and just recently learning even more the value of just sitting in the silence. So I want to give each of you the same opportunity to think about, what does God's grace mean to you? And what are ways that you can pass that grace on to those in your circle of influence? How can you create a little slack for your friends and your enemies, if there are such a thing? And maybe grace is just love in a different format. So let's just take a moment here just to be in silence. silence becomes so beautiful. I could just stay there a long time, and just experience what spirit could bring to us. So keep breathing in deeply and exhaling, breathing in new life, letting the old go away. Appreciate the joy we have in being able to breathe. It's such a beautiful exchange. Nothing stays the same. New breath, new exhale, new breath, new exhale. As we continue to learn on life's journey and bring in new thoughts and exhale the old. I'm just so thankful again for this community, for this gathering where we get to be together, and for all of these wonderful gifts. I give thanks. And I love hearing from Reverend Phil Pearson, so I like to give him as much time as possible. It's just such a special joy to have him. And I told him before we started that today's Louise Hay message that I did on my Facebook group was, I honor and respect all the elders in my life. I appreciate all they have to teach me. And certainly Reverend Phil Pearson is our statesman and our elder. And I welcome you back. You're muted, Phil.
Okay, now you hear me? Yeah. Anyway, I was thanking you, Esther, for the great job you always do. I'm very, very grateful to have you sharing the programs with me. It means a lot. I, uh, I smile when I am referred to as an elder, but I guess I am an elder to a lot of people, all right. But I think part of enjoying your longevity is not to realize how old you are, you know. So anyway, I'm happy to be an elder to any of you who can be blessed by it. Today, uh, I hope to share thoughts that will be meaningful to you because I have thought a great deal about them. I used to be, as many of you know, I used to be in the business world and investment world, and that's always sort of inspired me to browse what's going on in the world of business and commerce. And in doing so recently, I came across something that just really blew me away. And that was a survey that had been taken that the result seemed to indicate a tremendous impact it was having upon the housing market here in America. I thought, what would that be? And the survey was how many people felt that an end was coming. It wasn't specific what the end would have to be, but the survey indicated that many people were not good prospects for buying or selling houses, but particularly in buying homes because they felt an end was coming. And the end was sort of wide open. That is, it could have been the disaster of atomic warfare, or it could merely mean the breakdown of the American business system. In any event, so many people apparently felt, as this survey showed, almost 40% of those surveyed felt there was a end coming. And consequently, they weren't about to buy a house. So this was an interesting article to me and caused me to think the impact that such things that people hold in mind have upon the world we live in. I also found myself thinking about endings again, particularly those who felt there was no reason to buy a new house because atomic warfare was just worldwide was around the corner. And there was going to be possibly an ending, as some people speak of it from time to time. There would be an ending to the world. So catastrophic would be the atomic warfare. And that caused me to think, who has the say as to whether there's going to be an ending for humanity or not? And that caused me to think about something I shared with you at least on one occasion, maybe more, about the incredible thing that happened some 600 million years ago when the uh, dinosaurs were wiped from the face of the earth. And I'm not going to repeat the whole story except to say at that time I told you it was absolutely miraculous, which means it was a God event that it happened the way it did, uh, with an asteroid hitting the Earth just at the right place where it had to be in order to accomplish the ending to the dinosaur realm that was essential for the ongoing of God's plan for the evolution of the human. Because at that time that happened, there were no humans, and there could not have been any humans had the dinosaurs remained in control around the earth. They were everywhere, not just in the jungles. They were everywhere. So something had to bring an ending to this. And as I pointed out, the way it happened, it had to be God directed for it to do the work that was needed so perfectly. So I'm reminding you of that only to say the decision of whether there's to be endings or not is not something that humans are going to make. First of all, humans didn't start themselves. That's obvious. Obvious. We humans did not start ourselves. And while we have, again, intellectual and scientific answers for how possibly the littlest of germs managed to work to evolve such a wonderful being as a human, it's as uh, as brilliant people as Einstein have said, hey, that just didn't happen by itself. There was obviously an intelligence in charge of it, and it was God in charge. And I'm reminding us that just to say it is God's decision as to the unfoldment of our world and the coming and the going of humanity. And I will just, well, it isn't the essence of our message today. I would just say there is no way that God is going to make an investment in humanity to reflect his own spirit, only to allow it to do itself in. So God is in charge of the universe. And as I thought about that, I found myself uh, thinking about the role that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore have unfolded in the Unity work and in the incredible, insightful, inspiring ideas that they have given to us. Myrtle, of course, gave us the gift of showing that there is no condition, physical condition, that cannot be healed, and that investing oneself in faith and patience, it can be done perfectly. But Charles was the one that really has allowed, and in a real way, he assured the continuity of the unity concepts of Myrtle's great gift, because it was Charles who used the gift of intellect to realize that there is a relationship to humanity that God has that is far from obvious to most. And that is, God is universal mind. God is universal mind. And while some of the earliest religious thought had some essence of that in it, such as the early Hindu faith. But Charles made it very, very clear, I think, to point out to us that the greatest thing we can possibly conceive of is that God is universal mind, and therefore all that is exists in God. We live, we move, and have our being in God. It's a popular affirmation that many people speak. We live and move and have our being in God. But to put that into a thinking package for ourselves to use in a practical way, we need to define it very clearly. And when we say God is universal mind, we are saying everything lives within that mind, and therefore you and I live in the mind of God. And I think, well, everybody knows that. But I don't think we all do know that deeply, because I find that when people get talking about praying to God, they automatically sort of look up so often. They get this esoteric feeling as if they're going out to find God out there somewhere. And I'm not making light of anybody, because I'm not so far progressed that I don't have to work with what I'm trying to share with you today. I have to work with it. It's one thing to say, I live and move and have my being in God. I live in God mind. When we're saying this, we say everything it is in God mind. We're not all running around in a physical world that has its own capacity to be. It only is because it's in God's mind. And I am in God's mind. No, I I'm in God's mind, and God is not out there somewhere, and I'm down here. I'm right in God's mind. And I could just stop there and just repeat that over and over, because I know how difficult it is to uh, go from a background of ordinary Christianity that people have had for years that has always put God up there somewhere. And as metaphysicians, we come on, oh, no, no, that's not true. We know we live, move, have our being in God. What does that mean? God is mind. And I live in that mind. And so when I talk to God or think of God, I don't think out here somewhere. I think in here, into the dimension of mind, which is the only place we can ever really meet God. It is to meet God in mind. And when you and I realize and think together, I'm in the mind of God. Whoa. What an absolute connection that is. Uh, let's take a moment and just think about you as a mind being. Your whole world lives in you, literally. There isn't almost anything I could mention about your physical life that you and I couldn't spark you to immediately relate that to your image. You're holding it in your own mind. As I say, have you got a garden? Whoa, Oh yeah, I got a garden. That's right. I just it just came up when you asked that. My mind was right there, it was in me. Have you got children? Well, bang, there are your children. They're all right there in your head. Everything in your life exists in mind. And so it is. Everything in God's world is in God's mind. And so I live in God mind. How close am I to God? Can't get any closer than that. I don't have to go anywhere to contact God. I have to only talk to God, think toward God. But as some of you indicated, you're like me. I like to talk to God all the time. Because after all, I'm living and moving around in his mind, her mind, its mind, God's mind. So anyway, I found myself thinking of how much I know that to be true, and yet how I have to work to make it real for myself. But I have constant examples of how simple it is. And I had one. Some of you are aware, for instance, that last week I couldn't hear you folks talking. And afterwards I thought there got to be an answer to this. And I talked with Catherine Device. We were going to do a practice. We are going to do a practice thing to find out why that wasn't happening. And we didn't have to get around to that because in the middle of our time sequence, I found myself working on what the heck is the reason why that's happening. And I thought I saw something on my screen that would indicate that something was blocking my sound from the outer, but I didn't know what to do about it. And so I tried everything I could think of about how to change that around. And then finally, bang, my own lessons hit me on that. I said, gosh, all you have to do is talk to God. And so I said, God, I've tried everything on this. Would you help me figure this out? And so, having spoken that word, then I continued in this process of trying to find out what on that screen did, and saying, bang, I don't even remember how it happened. But suddenly, the thing that showed that I was going to be able to hear came on the screen. I don't remember what I did. All I know I was trying, still trying. After I talked to God, I was still trying, but this time it worked. And again, I've shared other times that's happened. That's the only reason I keep talking to you as your elder. I have been blessed with so many occasions of how this works. So why am I not floating in space? I am so aware of my oneness with God. When the truth is, I'm just along with you in this process of growing, because it isn't easy. It's easy for me to talk to you about it and for you to listen and say, shake your heads. Oh, sorry, that makes sense. That makes sense. But that process of getting to the fact that because you are in God mind, you have a constant personal relationship to the creative power of the universe. As I say that, I finally find myself thinking of some of the um, healers, that whip people up to a real expectancy of getting healed, and they move them out of the realm of the intellect until suddenly their position in God takes over and they're body resumes its normal state of wholeness. But as you're listening to me today, because you're a true student, or you wouldn't be listening to me, you're probably shaking your head and saying, oh, that's true. I know that I'm in God. I'm in God. And therefore, anything's possible. I'm in God, the source of the power and love of the universe. God loves me. Do you know, as I say that to you, I find myself thinking, it isn't strange that when people die, the first thing that those who almost die, near-death experience, they all say the same thing. And that is, I suddenly felt so loved. I've never felt so loved till I came back to life again and I lost it. But when I went through that almost dying experience, I felt so loved because you see, again, that is our, you can't feel anything else because if you're in God, you're in the very source of love itself. You're immersed in being loved. But you don't have to die to get that, do we? We don't have to die to feel that. To feel that I'm immersed in love. Why shouldn't God help me to figure out how to get back on to hearing you people? Why shouldn't God? Because God loves me. I mean, that just makes sense. But I have to make the contact again. I have to open my eyes and say, oh, here I am in you, dear Father, Mother God. Thank you for your help, for your direction, your guidance, whatever it is I need. Thank you. It's that simple. And we get an inkling of it through the death experience because what happens when you die? You shed your physicality. That's all that happens. We shed our physicality, and it's our physicality that is so woven in the thought that all our help is out there, even God's up there somewhere. No. You shed your physicality, and there you are, feeling, experiencing, being in God. It's an incredible opportunity. I found myself thinking about, okay, I'm teaching it, I believe it, and yet I don't live moment by moment in the certainty of my beingness in God. How can that be? And I found myself thinking about one of the great miracles that's going to transform life on earth that has been known for quite a long time now is a physical miracle, possible miracle that could change the face of life on earth, and possibly do away with war. And yet we've known about it, scientists have for a long time, but it hasn't happened. And that's the question of the possibility of what's called cold fusion. Cold fusion. We know all about hot fusion because that's the atomic bomb. That's what happens with hot fusion, a tremendous release of power. But scientists know if they can do that and make that fusion in a cold environment, temperature, we get the power, but without the radical release of that power that is the equivalent of the atomic bomb. Now, they've known about that for quite a long time. Why haven't we done it? Is it not possible? No, most scientists agree it's possible. And so the reason I'm sharing this with you, they've been working at this for a long time. And even as I'm talking about today, I guarantee you there are experiments going on around the world that are trying to effect cold fusion. Because with cold fusion, everybody would have limitless presence of power. you'd have a little box right outside your house with all the power you'd want, wouldn't cost you beans. And that would be true for the poorest people of the world and the richest. Everybody would have access to a power source that is life transforming. So that's like saying, do you know that you're in the mind of God and therefore you have limitless capacity? Yeah, man. I don't make it work all the time. And so it is with cold fusion. I'm making a point of the cold fusion to say, have the scientists quit finally? They've been trying for so long to make it happen. No. As we talk right now today, they're going on working and working, and they keep doing it because they're convinced that they're going to do it. That is my illustration of the day of what we have to be. We have to not say, oh, God, I don't think I'll ever, when am I ever really going to get it in my head that I'm so in God that all things are possible to me? Anything. What was the affirmation? Silent Unity sent out an affirmation to us recently. Um, I have the I have the faith to move mountains. Said I have the faith to move mountains. Where did they get that? They got that from Jesus. And Jesus said, the things that I have done, you may do also. And one of his examples was moving a mountain. We can do it. God created us to be so capable of being dynamic centers of creativity and joy and happiness and love. But we got to keep working at it. I guess that's with the biggest thing I would want to leave you with today is that I mentioned the example of cold fusion, because the scientists, bless their heart, they keep working at it. They've been working at it for years. And I know they're committed to working at it because the prize is so tremendous. The prize of cold fusion will transform the earth. Bang, like that. And the prize of knowing that we are one with God, and because we are in God mind, is even greater than cold fusion. Because wherever you are, then God is. Well, I leave you today, I hope, with a reaffirmation of the potential of your own being because you live in God mind. You're not talking or making contact with something out there somewhere. It's right where you are because you are in God mind. And I'm saying that because that's true, it's not going to transform your life until you and I learn to think. I am one with God because I live and move, have my being in God mind. Therefore, all things are possible to me. And do I have time? Yeah. Just quickly to say this probably again, that one of the reasons that I want to get around someday to doing what I don't seem to have done yet, and that is to write the story of things that happened in my life, because I have had, in quotes, a miraculous life by most people's standards. And I know they all happened because I've sort of been simple-minded throughout my life. That is simple in that I believe God loved me. That is one element of, I guess, feeling that the Father and I are one. Until I got into unity, I never thought of being in God mind. But I always thought I was one with God because God loved me. And I knew that even though I knew that I wasn't perfect. As some say, I've been around the world too. I am not perfect. And therefore, I know that God loves me no matter what, because that's the way God is. God is love. There's nothing you and I can do that can put us outside the love of God. But it doesn't do us any good unless we believe it and have a reason to believe it. It's because I'm in God. I'm saturated with God's own being. Well, I hope I inspire you perhaps today to continue more with the desire to live with a constant thought of being in God rather than God somewhere apart from you that you have to find and make contact with. You don't have to work to make. We don't have to work to make contact with God. We're in God. You can't get any closer. So on that word and on that thought, I love you this morning. I bless you today. Have a wonderful day. You live and move and have your being in God.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you. I took a couple of notes as you spoke because I do treasure your thoughts. And a scripture popped into my mind, which is appropriate. It's, let this mind which was in Christ be in you also. So we are all united in mind. And I hadn't thought about that before, that my whole world is in my brain and my mind too. And as you started out with that idea, it just made sense to me that that's where at the core of his being. And then I also liked how you talked about the challenge you had in coordinating the sound and everything. And I think what was important in to add to that is the importance of submission and realizing when we get to the end of our rope and asking out for divine guidance as you did. And I think asking is also important. Part of all of this is, when we ask for spirit to reveal to us what we need to know at any given moment, that takes sometimes a little submission of our own ego to reach out and say, okay, I don't know it all right now, but I will know what I need to know. So I so appreciate and validate all of what you said today. Thank you very much. And so it's time in our service now that we want to give thanks for the opportunity to have this ministry available to us. And because the world is the way it is, it requires participation from us in terms of volunteering our time, our talent, and our treasure. So once again, I want to give you all a physical address where you can send in your tithing if you would like. To me, it was helpful to have an address as opposed to doing PayPal. I'm a little old fashioned and a little slow in doing that. So I'll repeat the address. It is 1050 Sagamore Way, Sacramento, California, 95822. And last time Eamon put that up on the screen. So I trust that that will be on the recording as well to help any of those who listen after this live service to participate if they choose to. And we're so thankful for that. I just love being here. I hope it has served all of you well and that you can take these thoughts with you and be encouraged that life is unfolding as it should. And we know the Creator, He is in and with us, and there is nothing to fear, nothing to fear. So with that, let's all unmute. Let's see where we're going to play another song. Oh, you're going to play another song on page 3, the peace song. I think that's wonderful.
With God.
beautiful. I could hear some voices, and it's wonderful to hear your voice. But now, if you'll mute, we will officially all together say our prayer for protection. So please unmute yourself. And who would like to lead today?
The light of God.
Ben, you're going to start? Okay.
The light of God.
The light
surrounds
of God surrounds us.
Surrounds
The
us.
love of
The
God,
love of God enfolds us.
the
The
power
power
of
of
God
God
protects
us.
us.
Has
The presence of
The
God watches over us
over
wherever we
wherever we are. God is
and all is well.
well.
Wonderful. Well, bless you. May you feel the peace of God and the grace of God as you take your next steps this week, and bless yourself and bless others in your pathway. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Esther.
Have a good week, everybody.
Thanks. You too.